This lesson is on 5.3h, which is represent and solve addition and subtraction of fractions with an equal denominator. So we're going to work through a few examples. First, we're going to look at some addition equation, and in doing so, we're going to take it in 4 steps. So I'm just going to draw myself a 4 square to organize my way of thinking and representing my work. So the first step, I'm going to write my problem, whether it's vertical or horizontal. I'm going to write my problem as a vertical setup. So 1/2, I am going to add 7/8. Now in adding fractions, we must find a common denominator. And how do we find the common denominator? Is by looking for the least common, we're going to write this out, least common multiple. Now multiple is very different from what we talked about when we talked about greatest common factor. Factor is what makes the number, okay? Multiple is like a multiplication chart. So when we're looking for the least common multiple that is shared between the two denominators, we're listing the multiples of these denominator in order so you can see which one is the smallest one that they share. And that becomes our common denominator. You will probably hear people talk about least common denominator rather than multiple denominator. And that's how we're going to find the denominator in order to rename these fractions. So listing the multiples of 2 is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Listing the multiple of 8, I'm going to start with 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40. And with that, I already see the number that they share is the very first number. It's 8. Okay? So that means our common denominator is 8. Okay? So our next step, we're going to rename these fractions. Instead of having a denominator of 2, we're going to rename this 2 into 8. How do we go from 2 to 8? I'm going to write out 2 times 4 is 8. So therefore, what I do to the denominator, I must do the same thing to the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. So 1/2 just got renamed to 4/8. 7/8 already has a denominator of 8. Therefore, there's no reason to rename. Now we have 7/8. We're going to add to 4/8. Now 4/8 and 7/8, when we add them together, we can only add the numerator. Okay, so we have 11/8. Okay, now going to I'm going to put this is where I want to put my answer, and this is my answer in simplest form. Always take it to the simplest form. Now I know my answer is 11/8, and this is a improper fraction. So what I know is in the 11 I have one group of 8. So I can say one group of 8 with 3 parts left. So in order to find 1 and 3/8, you can also treat this as division problem. 11 divided by 8. 8 goes into 11 one time, and there's my mixed number 1. There is one group of 8, and there is 3 remaining. So therefore 1 and 3/8 is my answer. Now let's go a little bit, use bigger number. So I'm going to change it up here and make these fractions a little bit bigger and see if our process is any different. Okay, because it all works for all numbers and we shouldn't have to change anything. So the next example we're going to use is going to be represented with a mixed number. As our fraction gets bigger, we're no longer just working with fraction that's less than 1 whole. So we're going to solve this equation that is 5.5. We're going to add 7 and 7/8. So both of these have a whole number next to it. That's what makes it a mixed number. And they also have different denominator. Therefore, we have to rename them. We have to make them the same. From the earlier example, we already listed the multiples of 2, 4, 6, 8. Now I'm just going to redo it so you can see it. And we've got the 8 here. So again, I'm going to stop here, and our denominator continues to be 8. So this time, if I'm going to add these, same process. I'm now going to rename a mixed number, so don't forget to make sure you don't leave the whole number on the side. Forget about it. So how do I go from 2 to 8 again? I multiply by 4. Therefore, I have to multiply by 4 for the numerator as well. I am going to just repeat and write this again as 7 and 7/8. So this time when I'm adding mixed number, I want to make sure I take care of the whole number. So I'm going to add 5 and 7 together, which gives me 12. And also I'm going to add 4 and 11, and 7 gives me 11/8. So the answer again goes in here, 12 and 11/8. Now I know this is already in proper fraction based on the previous problem. I know this 11/8 also can be represented by 1 and 3/8. Okay, so I have the 12 that I'm going to add to it. So my final answer should be 13 and 3/8. So that's how we're going to solve just a little bit bigger number with a whole larger than 1 on the side. Now I am going to stop, and part 2 will have subtraction.